everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I have finally got around to, well, I haven't actually been yet, but I'm going to go get some fish for the 30cm cube that I skipped probably nearly 2 months ago now, and it's just been fishless because I've not been able to decide on what type of fish I want to keep. But I have made a decision and I'm going to go see if the fish shop have any. If they don't, that's that plan ruined, but we'll go see what they've got. But yeah, let's go find out. Okay, I've acquired the goods are in. I'm just going to acclimate them now for about half an hour, 40 minutes, turn the light off. While I was there I also picked up some other fish because I couldn't resist. So I'll show you them in a minute, but whilst everyone's acclimating I'm going to give you all an update on the mini pond because it's actually doing really well. So to the garden. So as you can see, it's kind of just exploded. I haven't really done much to it. I've given it a water change once a week as there has been some algae in the bucket, but it kind of doesn't bother me when it's outside because I'm like, oh, that's all part of nature. But obviously when it happens in our aquarium, I'm like, oh no, I've got algae, get it out. So there is a little bit, but I have water changed today and it's cleared up a little bit. I think if I just stay on top of that, it should be okay. But as for the plant section, we've got flowers appeared. And they've just appeared overnight, so I'm guessing this is all a good sign. So in the end, I did end up going for Celestial Pearl Danios. I know a lot of people recommended a lot of beautiful fish, and thank you so much to anyone who commented on YouTube and even on Instagram with suggestions. But in the end, these are my absolute favourite nano fish. I have kept them before, and they didn't last too long, unfortunately, which is why I was a little bit kind of in two minds to get them again, because I was worried, is it something I've done? But I'm going to give it one more shot. They are just in a tank by themselves, like completely species only. So yeah, fingers crossed that they do well. I think they're a popular fish that potentially does get overbred. But yeah, let's just hope that they do well. So I did put a heater in. I did want to run this as a sort of cold water or ambient temperature, if you like, tank. However, it didn't quite sit at 20 degrees continuously, sort of like through the day and through the night. It would drop, and I measured it. I was measuring it throughout this week just to see how it was, and sometimes it did drop to sort of 16 degrees because the room that the tanks are in aren't like a warm room. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to keep them without a heater, so I have put one in just to keep the temperature bit more stable and a bit more consistent for them. So yeah, I am really happy with them. I think they're a lovely fish. I got 6, so it's a nice little group, and as I said, they're the only fish in the cube, so I'm hoping it is sort of big enough for them. But I've always been sort of really attracted to these, and somebody said to me once when I was speaking to them about them, because I just love the behaviours and the colours, but someone said they're like miniature trouts. And I kind of can't unsee it now. They are, with the speckles and the patterns and stuff. So yeah, super happy. And as I mentioned, I did get some other fish. Those were for some different tanks, but I will show you what we've got. So for this tank, I just got some more little chili rasboras. So I had a group of about 8 and I picked up about 6 more. I just think when they're in a bigger group, it just brings out the behaviour a bit more and they're just a bit more confident because they can be quite shy. So I've added those guys in. They probably still need to colour up a little bit, but they all seem to be schooled together, which is a good sign. So again, I just want to keep this sort of species only. Obviously there's shrimp in there, but I just think you get the best behaviours out of fish, and I think they feel more comfortable as well. If anybody remembers the old scape, they did look a lot redder and more coloured up in that scape, and I think it's because they had a lot more places to hide. This is still quite open and it doesn't run CO2, so it still has some growing in to do. So there isn't a lot of kind of spaces for them to hide and feel safe, and it is obviously quite open. It's very different to what they were used to, so I've not actually seen them as red as they were in the previous scape. So I think I'm probably going to add a few more floating plants in here just to sort of make them feel comfortable, especially while everything's just kind of taking shape and growing in. It is only a couple of months old still, so, and it's, as I say, no CO2. The plants are all pretty slow growing, but they seem happy enough and they are schooling around and things, but I just thought adding a few more might just give them a bit more of a confidence boost. It's not like you don't ever see them, so, but yeah, I think that's a nice size group now, so I'll probably just leave that tank at that. No new ones for here. This is still Anubius's tank. He's just got 2 little ottos in there, but no new fish for there. But I did get some fish for the big tank. Then on the big tank, again, this needs to be water changed, but I'm going to let all the fish settle first. So in here, oh, you can't see them. Oh, you can. I've added some embers. There was only one in there. I did used to have embers, and unfortunately all his friends passed. So I've added to his group, so I got 5, so there's now 6, which will make a nice little group, because eventually in this tank I just want to keep the purple Rasboras, which are those ones there, absolutely stunning. The little harlequins behind, the lamb chop ones, although I don't know if they are lamb chops because they're smaller, so I can't remember the name, and embers, and that's kind of the only fish that I would like in there in the end, because I think they all complement each other really well. And I thought they were pygmy cories, and when I asked the shop person, are these pygmy cories, he said no, but they're similar. So I was like, all right, well, if they stay the same size, can I have some, please? And as it turns out, they aren't remotely a pygmy cory at all. They're just a baby cory. I already have 2 in there, so I got 2 more, but they're not what I wanted. But I love cories, so that's fine. But yeah. They're just tiny babies, not pygmies, which I realised when I got home. So I've been missold, but never mind. I love cories, so it's all good. So it's been a fish day. I've not bought fish for this tank in ages. In fact, the last fish I bought were these, but prior to that it would have probably been years. So it's quite exciting, really. But yeah, I'm trying to just kind of keep the species variety down a little bit. I kind of prefer it now. I think I mentioned in a previous video in this tank when I was talking about it that I kind of just got excited and just bought like a few of everything, and in hindsight I just wish I'd got groups of 1 or 2 things, because the behaviours are better and it does actually look nicer. Yep, this tank is due a water change. Don't know if anybody can see, I am dealing with some serious green algae in this tank. And I don't know why. I've reduced the light. All I can put it down to when it appeared is I added these little twigs here. These are like these ancient roots from Weo. Since adding them, I've had a lot of algae, and I don't know if they're releasing a lot of organics. Bit weird. So yeah, just trying to stay on top of that at the minute. They're a lot smaller than the one that I have. And he doesn't really seem bothered by them. I thought he'd be happy for a friend, but obviously not. I'm not sure where they've all hid to. But yeah, I'm sure they'll come out. They're probably just a bit scared. It's a bit of a shock for them, isn't it? So I feel like I should mention this because I like to be sort of honest on the channel and real with problems and things. But you might notice Anakin looking absolutely battered, and I'm aware of how bad this is. And it's awful, and I'm treating it, and I'm sort of dealing with it as best I can. But I want to give you the backstory to this and how it's happened, because you might be looking at that and thinking, you know, you say you're an aquascaper and you love fish. How on earth has your fish got that bad? Like, how did you not spot this? So a couple of weeks ago, we were going on holiday. So I do what I usually do. It was just a city break. It was only a couple of days. So I do what I usually do. I do the big water change before I go, give them a good feed. And one of my partner's kids feeds them whilst I'm away. So they were left for 4 days or 5 days. And before I left, Anakin was absolutely fine. There was no sort of like issues with his fins or anything like that. He was eating, he was swimming, everything seemed absolutely fine. So I wasn't worried, I had no concerns. So I left them, left instructions on what to do. That was fine, everything went to plan. But just before that, we have birds, or I'm gonna say had 2 birds. Now we've got 1 bird. And she got really sick, my little kakariki. She got quite ill just before we left for holiday, and she started having what I thought were seizures. So on the Saturday morning, and we left Wednesday, so on the Saturday morning we rushed her to a vet who wasn't a specialist. So you kind of have to see avian specialists when it comes to birds, especially like exotic birds. And they didn't really know what was wrong with her, but they gave her some medication, and this head twitching thing that she had going on kind of subsided, but she still wasn't herself. And I'm going to kind of cut a long story short. On the Monday we went down to York to see a specialist. He didn't quite know what it was, but we got some more medication. She was given like a high dose calcium shot, because he thought it could have been sort of like a nutrient type deficiency that can sometimes present as neurological issues. And on the Wednesday we went on holiday, so my bird went to my mum's house. She was like amazing with animals, and she medicated her and looked after her. And when we came back, she still wasn't well, but she seemed to have improved. And the reason I'm telling you that is because in that time I kind of neglected the fish a little bit. And when I say neglected, they still got the water changes, they still got fed, but I wasn't looking at them constantly. And you know, and if one was becoming sick, I probably would have missed it, admittedly, because my focus was there. But from what I recall, Anakin wasn't ill. Anakin's the betta, and like I say, the water change that I did before holiday, he seemed fine. However, probably for a week to 2 weeks, I hadn't been paying them my full attention, because it was obviously on my bird, who unfortunately 2 days ago passed away. And she was only young. We'd only had her 3 months. So they think it was like potentially a genetic related issue, but I think she died of kidney failure. So yeah, that's really sad. And I am really sad. So yeah, I've got a sick betta, and unfortunately I lost a bird. So it's a bit rough, because I love my animals, and I'd hate to think that anything would happen to them, you know, under my care. Because I do give everything, all my time, all my money, all my efforts, everything goes into looking after them. And we've got quite a few pets, so you know, it is a lot of work, because I've got a tortoise, a lizard, a cockatiel, the fish, my rabbits, plus we work full time. So you know, it's not a complaint. I choose to do this because I love my animals, but it is just, it's sad when it happens, and it potentially is my fault that he's got as bad as he has. But obviously when we came back, his fins were right. It was actually one of my partner's kids that said Anakin doesn't look very well. And when I actually came to look, this was one day after getting back off holiday, it was bad, and it's been really, really aggressive. So I've treated him with my Axin Isha 2000, I think it's called. Haven't used Melafix because I have read things that say that you shouldn't use that on betta fish, because it contains, I think it's got like tea tree in it, which isn't good for the labyrinth organ. But that's just what I've read. That's not, I don't know if it's a fact, but I've avoided it. Obviously I've kept on top of his water changes. You might be wondering why I didn't take him out the tank. Well, he's the only one in there, and I've put the relievers on the filter to completely reduce the flow, so there's barely any flow in there at all. I mean, it doesn't even really sway the plants. And I've put filter floss in the filter again just to kind of reduce the flow as best I can, because I didn't want to add to the stress. And whilst he is the only one in there, it's not really a worry to medicate the tank. And he's got loads of plants and things that he has been resting on. Now he is still trying to swim, he is eating. And then the other day I've tried botanicals, so I put, I've just taken them out actually whilst I was water changing, but these things along with some leaves and some other things I've put in there as well. And well, coincidentally, I think since putting them in, I am about to put more in. I'm just going to boil them up, but since putting them in, that's when I actually noticed the biggest improvement, which does go to, I don't know, nature it maybe wins, because that's obviously a natural remedy essentially. And since putting them in, it stopped, but it is so close to the base of his tail, and when it gets there, the fins won't grow back. When it gets to a certain point, they can, but when it gets that low, it's kind of a bit like endgame. So it's not looking fantastic, as you can see, but I'm going to keep doing everything that I can. I'm feeding him, you know, like high protein healthy foods like Daphnia and things like that, more live. He also gets fluval bug bites as well, but it's a hard one because I've no idea how it's happened, because in the space of time that I was away, and obviously with my bird that was ill, they still got the water changes, so it can be down to like bacteria in the water and sort of bad like water care, poor water parameters. But I wouldn't say that that's been the case, because I'm strict with my regime. So I really don't know how or where it's come from. Obviously I have another betta fish who is, touch wood, fine and healthy, but I'm just trying to make sure that when I do water changes, things aren't getting cross-contaminated, because if there is a bacteria, I don't want to pass it over. But it has been really aggressive in the time of sort of, if that progressed in the space of time that I was on holiday, it's took 4 days to get as bad as it has, and then obviously I started medicating, but the medication just hasn't worked as well as I hoped it would. So yeah, that is the story of Anakin. It's sad, however, he isn't looking as bloody or inflamed, or it gets like a black edge to it. That's kind of disappearing, so if he pulls through, it will be a miracle. So yeah, that's where we're at now. I was gonna rescape this tank. I was wanting to take it down, but now obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wait and see what happens with him. But whatever does happen, I'm hoping that it's a good outcome, but whatever does happen, that tank will be getting rescaped at some point, so that's coming on the channel. I have bought some wood, but it looks too big, but I'm going to show you it because it's a really beautiful piece. It's just this structure wood. Whoops, might have just scratched the wall there. But yeah, it's stunning, but I think it might be too big for a 45p, but we'll see. That's kind of where things are at. That's kind of what's happening. Like I say, I try to be as honest and show you everything that happens in the life of an aquascaper / fish keeper. So yeah, fingers crossed that he's going to be okay. Just that these little guys settle in. They seem to be darting around, so I always just wonder what they think when they've come from a pet shop that's like keeps them in, you know, just a plain bottom glass tank. I know they have to, but when they come from that into like a big planted jungle, I wonder like if they're just like, oh my god, this is amazing, or if they just preferred it in a little glass bottom tank. I mean, I'm gonna say I reckon they didn't, but so yeah, thank you so much for watching. That's probably going to do it for this one. I feel like I've ended it on a bit of a depressing note, but I'm just telling you how it is. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.